So what we're going to see with the Spanish-American War is that in 1898, when William McKinley is president, he's the same guy who has this mentality about expanding into the Pacific. And there's actually an island out there that I don't mention on the board here called the Philippines, which is controlled by the Spanish. And there's also an island in the Caribbean, Cuba, that had a lot of good stuff in it, particularly sugar. Cuba's got a lot of sugar, which the United States really likes. Kind of like in Hawaii. We took Hawaii over largely because the sugar planters wanted it, and we wanted that way station to Asia. So we see a president that's expansionistic, who's imperialistic, who's kind of out there looking for excuses to expand, along with a population that is hungry for this expansion as well. They see it as their manifest destiny, combined with Monroe Doctrine, combined with social Darwinism. They don't see any problem with expanding and taking over these territories. So we have in 1898 this confluence of things that is going to lead to the Spanish-American War. First is the Free Cuba movement. The Cuban island was controlled by the Spanish, and the Spanish were terrible oppressors to the Cubans. There's a humanitarian crisis. The Spanish wanted to have, the Cubans wanted independence. They had started committing guerrilla warfare against the Spanish. The Spanish cracked down on the Cubans by taking all the native Cuban population and rounding them up and put them into what they called reconcentration camps or detention camps. And basically they were just starving them out, looking for those guerrilla warfare participants. And this leads to that humanitarian crisis. The Americans look at that and see Cuba as a potential ally. Then there's also yellow journalism. Yellow journalism is this sensationalist newspaper technique at the time period led by William Hearst and Joe Pulitzer. And the sensationalist newspapers were not necessarily telling the truth. They weren't exactly lying all the time, but they were committing hyperbole. They were exaggerating. They were selling whatever they could to the news-going population. And a lot of what they're selling is referred to as jingoism, this idea of beating the drums of war, trying to get people riled up so they want to go to war. In all of this mess, in, I believe, February of 1898, McKinley sends the USS Maine into the port of Havana to try to monitor what's happening down in Cuba. So Havana's in Cuba. Sends it down there. It's in the port. The ambassador back to Spain that's living in Cuba, his name's Delome. This ambassador writes back to his Spanish bosses and says, don't worry about McKinley. He's weak. He's never going to attack. He's not going to do anything. This letter is intercepted. It's published in the newspaper. McKinley looks weak. He looks ineffective. And he's a leader of the United States, so he can't look like that. He's mad. He's angry. He's trying to find a way to make up for that. And then a month after that, the USS Maine explodes in Havana Harbor. Immediately, the yellow journalists start saying, it was Spain. Spain did it. The Spanish destroyed the Maine. And they start calling for war. The population of the United States immediately says, yes, we need to go to war. They've attacked Americans. 260 men died in Havana as a result of Spanish treachery. Turns out that it was an accident on board the ship, and it was the Americans that blew up the ship on accident. But it's happened. And they start screaming, remember the Maine. And then you combine that with the Delome letter, and you combine that with this free Cuba humanitarian desire, and you combine that with the fact that we could get a lot of sugar out of the deal and maybe even help control Cuba. We have war. Over a period of about 3 weeks, negotiations break down. The Spanish declare war on the United States. The Americans return, declare war on Spain. They pass something called the Teller Amendment in the United States. The Teller Amendment said that the United States is going to allow Cuba to remain independent, that we didn't start this war because we wanted the Cuban territory. But, things change.